Welcome. My name is James Lileks, and I'm here with two brilliant guys. Rob Long and Jonah Goldberg. And we spent the last hour trying to figure out exactly what our topic is. Something about the election, I presume. I've been here since Thursday. I came in, and we were driving in the airport shuttle, and I looked out the window, and I knew I was in a primary state because there are all these signs. Romney, 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 Newt, Newt, Romney, 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 Newt, Newt, Paul, Paul. And I thought it's like a trip through the mind of the Republican voter. Romney, 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 Newt, 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 Romney, 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 Paul, Paul. Santorum, Heinzman. And I started talking, the signage got everybody talking in the little airport shuttle about the election. And you know how it is sometimes when you start talking politics with a tight room of strangers that you can't escape from? And you're waiting for somebody to say something that ruins it for everybody. But then you hear them start to say things that make them think you're on their team, you're all on the same team. And he was a pilot, you could tell, because he had white hair and a gruff, commanding voice. And he was talking about how what he liked. He liked this candidate, he liked this about this candidate, but he said, but it's going to be Romney. And then the other co-pilot starts talking, and he talks about Ron Paul, and he really likes the fact that Ron Paul is big on the Constitution, but thinks he's flaky and crazy when it comes to foreign policy, and it's going to be Romney. And the two flight attendants were talking about how they enjoyed Michelle Bachmann's ascendancy, and they wished that she'd stuck in there because she was really interesting, and she was great, she was stylish. At which point I noted also is that
I don't want my stewardesses to like Michelle Bachmann.
I wish that she had actually gone farther and become president, because she would have been the first president I would have been taller than, which would be never in my life. But they said, but it's going to be Romney. So the inevitability was confirmed in this little vehicle going on the way to the hotel. But then, last night, I'm sitting in a bar, by some strange, odd turn of events, and I'm with this guy who has, from time to time, said, it's going to be Romney. And he looks at the screen, and he looks at President Obama, who's talking to the screen, and he says, he's going to win. And I felt this incredible deflation, that the old Republican "we're going to lose this" feel came again. And how could this man of enthusiasm and optimism believe such a thing? I'll let Rob explain exactly what he meant.
I just want to finish this tweet wondering if Lileks will ever sit down. Send.
For the record, James used more energy and had more exercise in that little presentation than Rob and I have used in about 15 of these.
Jonah and I are exhausted just watching you do that.
Doing cartwheels across the stage in 30 minutes.
The Huntsman daughters have tweeted, Dad now in second place, great way to be before the debate. And then, this is my favorite tweet. Ron Paul, I'm here in Manchester. Let's do a photo to set the record straight. We are not the same person. RuPaul. But, traditionally what we do is we do these things and we try to make jokes and try to make everybody laugh. And it is true, last night Lileks and I were drinking bourbon in the bar, and I looked at the TV up there, and there was Barack Obama, and I said, it just came right out, I said, we're going to lose this thing. Oh. And so I thought I would turn it over to Jonah to say something funny.
Well, thank you, Rob. First of all, I want to say I'm happier than Helen Thomas at a Hamas rally to be here. I'm a little. This is sort of unprecedented. We've never done one of these sort of weird panels where the panel before us talked about all the stuff that's actually going on, so we're not exactly sure what we're supposed to be talking about. But
those egg rolls are pretty good.
They do look pretty good. And I am pretty sure I saw someone who was having their one meal for the week up there. Yeah. Because there was a big Radisson shopping bag.
We hosted some occupiers from across the way.
Actually, I should have opened with I'm happier than Occupy Wall Street when it's free tetracycline week. But, yeah, look, I mean, I know there's a lot of grief being thrown our way at National Review these days because we are...
in the tank.
Well, look, let's start with this rhino thing, okay? I am a rhino. Any good conservative must be a rhino, right? I hate this phrase rhino because it makes it sound as if like only true conservatives are really, they're Republicans to the bone.
Only true conservatives vote for Harlan Specter.
And that's the thing, is that if you're a true conservative, you are a Republican in name only. You're basically a Republican because it's the more conservative, sometimes not sufficiently conservative, but the more conservative of the two parties, right? If you're a real Republican, a truly committed Republican, then you are friggin' jazzed when Olympia Snow wins. And, you know, and those people exist, and you want them in the party because someone's got to lick envelopes. But, you know, it's not me, you know, and so it's one of these ironic things because I think like Sino sounds weird, right? It sounds like you're talking about China or something. So we say rhino when we mean actually the exact opposite of rhino.
We used to call Rob a rhino squish, which sounds like a delicious beverage you'd get at 7-Up or at 7-Eleven. You know, some sort of Slurpee thing with a blue flavor.
Well, that's one way to put it. I always thought it was something with a rhino left, but...
Anyway, they stop talking and looking at me, which makes me like incredibly nervous and makes me feel like I'm like at the public library next to that guy in the trench coat, you know. And I'll just be honest. You know, 2011 was a really awful year for me, and you know, I feel like I should be down at the police station with like talking to a detective who has got like a doll saying, you know, show me where on the doll 2011 touched you. And these are the jokes, folks. And you know, there's this feeling out there that like, you know, as these guys were talking about, you know, because it was so hilarious, about the situation in the Republican field, and it's an unpleasant thing. And what drives me crazy, since I'm still on this rhino rant, what drives me crazy is this idea that somehow, if I see the shortcomings in your candidate, that means I'm not a true conservative, and that's all over the place these days. You know, and the reality is that all of these guys have shortcomings, right? I mean, these are all flawed candidates, in part because being a politician means you're flawed, because being a human being means you're flawed. And so my view about all this is that all these guys are kind of problematic, so let's have a primary and work it all out. The only people who aren't compromising are the people who are writing in Calvin Coolidge on the ballot, right?
We could reanimate him. No, it's true. People always say that about whenever I would say about Sarah Palin, I don't think she should be president. And people always say, why are you so against her? Well, I don't think Lileks should be president either, but I like him. I think he's a nice guy. It's not the biggest insult in the world to say somebody shouldn't be president. I mean, that's actually kind of a, you know, I don't think I should be president. I'll be the first person to tell you, do not vote for me.
Well, you're a felon, so it doesn't matter.
No, I know, it was voided, or whatever it is. But the part of the fun of a primary location like this, and when you come, you should see this great big carnival of American politics, and we were just talking about I think we did have an occupier sort of feasting, but luckily they're vegan, so they ate all the cheap stuff. Conservatives are going for the puff pastry, what else you got? The hot stuff, right? I want the actual, the vegans are just like, I'll have the garnish. Part of the fun is you see like how fantastically weird American politics is. Just how great and weird and kooky and a little terrifying. But and I'm not even talking about Ron Paul. Ron Paul is like a 3 on a scale of 1 to what's outside this hotel right this minute. I was walking back from, I parked across the street, I was walking from the car, and there was a big van, and there was a sign in the van that had these great, I mean, my favorite issues. Raw milk, and then the female sign, you know, the thing in the plus, and two of them together. And then the male sign with two of them together, so it's raw milk and gay rights, and there was another one. Oh yeah, fracking no. And then and all sort of encompassed by some giant red letters, remember states' rights. It's not traditionally associated with those issues.
See, I thought you were going to say, like, maybe outside the Santorum thing, there would be someone with the poster, and one of them would be the two women things together for gay marriage, and then one of them would be like one of the women's things, and then like a dog sort of mounting it, right? Because according to Santorum, that's like coming to start. But speaking of the weirdness,
wait a minute. I just. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Exactly. Speaking of slightly less weird, right before we started, a gentleman came up to me to give me his business card. I will withhold his name, he seemed like a nice guy. Let's just say Joe Smith, for the sake of argument. Founder and president of the Heterosexual White Guy Journalist Association. And he asked me if I wanted to join, because he's the only member right now. And I said I'd have to check with my wife. And, but it reminds me, like, I get email from this guy. He's a very funny, smart guy. He sends me email all the time. Who signs it, National Association of Men Who Eat Over the Sink, Treasurer. Which I just always love.
Right, well, you know, he has to file the forms, the nonprofit. But that's, I kind of like that. I mean, part of it, you know, everybody says the same thing, which is everyone says it's important. But part of what I like to see is just the chaos out there. And I've been a little, I was talking about this today, I was a little surprised that it doesn't seem to be quite so vivid everywhere. Like, it seems like a little bit more subdued, like just the bananas yard signs you don't really see as many as you used to. I'm sure the Robin people are taking them down too, but I mean, you don't see it as much as you used to. And it isn't quite the same cavalcade of everybody's pet argument, which they usually bring out of this stuff, and I kind of miss that.
So the press then has to make it incredibly exciting. If there is no drama, they have to find drama somewhere, because that's what they do, especially the visual media. At the bar where I was a couple of nights ago, where I found myself again by some strange coincidence.
This isn't the bar you woke up.
No. When I laid the cot out.
You know, they're just drinks, it's not love.
There were a lot of television people there, and you can always tell television people. Print journalists find each other and talk and confab and the rest of it. Television people form their own tribe, and they don't want to talk to print. They're below print. They're the important people. They give you the images. They've got big cameras. They're so important. And all the television people were in the lobby, in the bar of this hotel, and in comes talent. And you can always tell talent, because he's just a little bit more buffed than everybody else, and he's got the hip glasses. He throws his scarf, and he comes in, and he walks in, and he says, "Juice, I need some juice." He holds up his phone. He's out of juice. He's got to plug in so he can be connected to the world. And then he turns to his comrades and says, "There may have been a miscount in Iowa. Santorum may actually have 12 more votes. He may have won." So there's a little rill of excitement as they try to bounce up and down and figure out what to do about this, because this could change everything, right? And of course it won't, but at the same time I thought this is the great thing about America, because maybe in a way sort of it could. Because if Santorum had one that had more numbers, and even if there was just 12 of them, and even if it was just 12 people etching out something in a ballot in Iowa in a small town somewhere, that could lend to a story of momentum, which would then be cascading across all of these guys' television coverage. And the next thing you know, that campaign gets another boost and more money and the rest of it. It's like the butterfly that flaps its wings in Brazil, or in this case, the ballot that gets miscounted in Iowa, that turns into something much larger, and then you've got President Santorum. So if that's how it happens, blame the guy who needed more juice. He's the one who started the story big. He didn't get his juice, by the way.
I was there last night. I didn't hear that.
It was just a couple of days ago.
Oh, I see. Well, but it's true. I mean, there is this kind of manufactured drama here, right? I mean, last we were here 4 years ago. The irony was that there was this gigantic, emotional, titanic struggle between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and it was part of it was taking place on this half of the ballroom, and we were on that half of the ballroom, and we were making jokes on the other side, they were just tap dancing for their lives. And you really could smell the desperate, frantic, and part of it is just, it was 50% reduced here because there's no real primary on the other side, but you could smell that desperation, you could smell it. They were like, this is really important. And it felt like a drama was unfolding on the other side. And now I kind of feel like you can almost see it in the numbers coming out of South Carolina, people going, whereas a friend of mine said, just make it Romney, it's going to be Romney, just make it Romney, and we'll just all just deal with it. Give us a few months to wrap our heads around it. We know what's going to be, just everybody go home, and we'll just get used to it. You know, it's like a thing you don't like, and you just give me a couple of days, and I'll get over it. You know, when somebody tells you have to do something, you're like, well, I'm not going to, God, no, it's like all right, come back in 3 days, I won't be so mad.
It's like an arranged marriage, in other words, where they say eventually you fall in love. That's what you're hoping for?
Arranged marriages last longer than the ones that other people have for apparently legitimate reasons.
Well, because your uncle kills you if you leave the way. But
part of the problem is also just the race isn't entertaining as it should be. Just sort of like us up here. Especially with Herman Cain out of the race. Herman Cain was the one guy who actually seemed to enjoy running for president. I mean, I know it's a lot to ask for, but, Rick Santorum, he has this thing where he just seems angry, and he seems like that kid in class who studied for the test that the teacher forgot. And so he's like, you said we were going to be tested today.
But there are also moments in the debate where you would look at him and he has a facial expression of the really uptight guy who's been brought to the bachelor party before somebody gets
right. I don't want to see women do that. And Romney, I mean, he's entertaining, but he's applicable only to the same jokes over and over again. Oh, hair number 317,406 is out of place. We've told these jokes,
And you don't think he actually gets them.
Yeah.
It's like he's memorized them phonetically. Just like he's like Siri. You know, they have Siri on their phone. It's like, how can I help you with that, Dave?
But, I used to always make this joke about Romney that he looked like, if he hit mute while he was talking, it looked like what he was saying was, what do I have to do to put you in this BMW today? And the thing is that you look at Herman Cain, he's really the car salesman guy, right? I mean, he is like that guy you see on the local channel, selling used cars. Come on down to Herman Cain's, 999, any car, And he was enjoying himself, And the rest of these guys, I mean, look, at least when it comes to Mitt Romney, he pays you the respect of faking sincerity, right? And John Huntsman, he doesn't give you the simple human courtesy of treating you like he doesn't think you're an idiot, right? I mean, he's up there and he's smarmy.
Yeah.
He's the guy from The Matrix who loves to curse in French because it's like wiping your ass in silk, whatever that guy's name is. He's that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's the weatherman who's the ironic weatherman. It's like, you're an idiot for even caring about the weather, and I'm an idiot for being a weatherman, but it's going to be sunny tomorrow.
I love Bill Murray and Groundhog Day. What are you talking about?
That's right.
So in other words, what you got was you guys want authenticity, right? Which is difficult to fake. There was an ad in the local paper when I got here. I opened it up, and there's a huge full-page ad from some guy who's running on the Democrat side. He wants to be the Democratic candidate. And there's a banner headline at the top of this huge ad, and the banner headline says, "This asinine crap is why no one's hiring." And there's a long list of all the things that he's published, this email exchange they had with somebody about the difficulty of hiring somebody in 1099 forms, and at the bottom of it is his statement and his sole promise. I will cut the asinine crap.
I am going to move to New Hampshire and register and vote for that guy, whatever the thing is.
I went to his website. He had 27 planks, actually, in addition to cutting asinine crap, all of which were about as basic and simple as that, including, I will do things you won't like. I will not apologize for the things that I should be sorry for. I mean, it was absolutely delightful. Not a chance the guy could have a moment of traction.
Does anybody know who that guy? We have New Hampshire voters here. Who is that guy? Can we run him? There's time. We're getting to South Carolina? How fast?
we're gonna run him in the. I mean, I'd be happy if that was a Republican plank. I'd be happy with that. I mean,
it used to be, by the way. I don't know whether anybody remembers that, but that used to be that was our flag. I will cut the asinine crap.
I want to disagree with the guys who were on the panel here earlier. You know, I mean, I love all those guys. They're great. They're very talented.
But you know,
I'm so glad that Ramesh's pod from Vulcan landed here safely. But
well, not safely. He did sustain some damage.
But you know, they were all busting on Newt for his election night thing in the caucuses, and I like the bitter drunk guy. You know, I mean, you don't deserve me. You know, I mean, if he was like that more often, I mean, I would dissent on principle from National Review's editorial. No, but I mean, I think, you know, I wrote this in a column a while ago. You know, the thing about Newt is he's just a sloppy strange bundle of humanity, right? I mean, he looks like he should be walking around in like one of those Henry V ermine robes, pointing his turkey leg at you, saying, "You don't understand, I took back Congress."
Hang them. Yeah, right.
I like that.
Right. And Newt is never more creepy than when he's trying to act normal.
That's when you feel unsafe.
That's when you're like, what did you do to the former speaker? Because, you know, that was him. I mean, we saw him on that night, and I agree with you. I mean, part of me just wants to something, you know, my rule of politics is, here's how you win an election. You behave like a human being for 30 seconds longer than the other guy. You're just a little bit less weird than they are, and people are like, well, all right, you're just too weird, so you. And that was the thing about Newt for a while seemed like he was trying that, and I think actually somehow being bitter and furious, that's not weird for him. It seemed authentic, to use your ridiculous term, authenticity. But I kind of like that. I kind of miss that. There's that part of the thing that these guys are also. It's New Hampshire, I can say. They're also chicken shit about the voter and the TV and the cameras. They're also.
The one thing you guys in New Hampshire love is cursing.
Yeah.
I know about you guys. You like the cursing.
I just tell it like it is, you know. But they all just like, there's a certain kind of, I don't know, you look at them and you think, come on, grow up here. Be real for 10 seconds. There's acres of video out there.
The only one to grow up here, as far as I can tell, was Michelle Bachmann.
Did you think? I mean, because I thought she was bad too. She had that kind of weird, like, I can't say anything bad. I can't say anything truthful because it'll be blasted everywhere and I won't be able to take it back. And I think that the benefit of today, the benefit of being in politics today is you can say a lot more than you used to be able to say because you control this. You don't even, there isn't a cycle. You don't even talk about a news cycle now. It's idiotic. There isn't one. You could just put out another video if you want. You can talk directly to the camera and people will watch it.
And that was what was great about Herman Cain. He said, you know what this country needs to do is learn how to take a joke. You know, that was great stuff, you know.
Great stuff.
And one of the reasons why Newt wrote the top was also because we're just playing musical chairs and everyone gets a turn to be the non-Romney, as long as you're just not an incredibly annoying human toothache like John Huntsman. But,
Huntsman surging, according to Huntsman's daughters. On Twitter, where I get my news.
But, you know, one of the reasons why Newt, you know, did as well as he did was because he would call BS. See, I'm not sure that New Hampshire people love the cursing. He would call BS on the media guys. You know, he would say, that's a ridiculous question, that's a stupid question, you're not smart enough to be a spell checker.
Did you love that? Did you love that? Everybody did it? And you're like, great! Wow!
It was great. If somebody had said to Newt, we noticed that when we pose a question, you don't accept the way that we pose the question. Newt would say, I don't accept the way that you just posed that question. We always get angry because these guys always accept the terms of the other side. And the great thing about Newt at the beginning was that he refused to do it, and he didn't do it in a condescending, high-hatted manner. I would have been happy if he had. But that was the new Newt, that was the good Newt. And now, of course, the debate is whether or not tonight we're going to get good Newt or bad Newt.
I want bad Newt. Bad Newt. Because we got to watch this damn thing. Do something.
What we do is we'll pour a lot of shots, right? And then we'll pile into a bus. Jack will get us a bus. And we'll storm the debate, just start chanting bad Newt for bad Newt.
Every time you see bad Newt, you take a shot. How about that?
I want to see Newt leap down from the riser, run over, and slap George Stephanopoulos with a wet flounder.
I don't.
He's here somewhere. I've seen him. I've also seen Chris Matthews. I wonder, do you know what Chris Matthews' sort of nickname is on the web when people talk about him? Tingles. And they call him Tingles because, of course, of that famous remark where he said that Barack Obama gave him a tingle down his leg. Now, the only time that I would expect to have a tingle down my leg if I had been drinking Freon and I was incontinent.
I'm just still stuck on the image of the sloppy, slapping girl fight between Stephanopoulos and Newt Gingrich. Like, one of them would be cry and it's snot everywhere. You know, that I would pay. That would be real politics.
Well, no, I asked on Twitter today, how many points Romney would go up if he beat the living crap out of an Occupy Wall Street guy.
With a $6,000 shoe.
Picture the future, Winston, a Gucci grinding in the face of an Occupy.
Clear this thing soon.
You still have an Occupy New Hampshire here. How long has this been going on?
Yeah, how long has Huntsman been here?
In Minnesota. In Minnesota, they died. The cold came and they slept and then they died. It started out in Minnesota, as you can imagine. Everybody was out there with their signs saying, I can't, Michelle Bachmann has a better chance of being president than I have of paying off my student loans. And I went down and I asked one of them, I said, why are you in debt? She said, well, I'm getting an English major. I said, no. There's your first problem right there. And I told every one of them that I talked to, go to North Dakota. It's next door, it's booming, it's sloshing with money, you can do whatever you want. Go to North Dakota. But the idea of them leaving the comfortable little urban cocoon of Minnesota with all of its wonderful culture and going to some place as rude and rough and testosterone-choked and carboning as North Dakota was anathema to them. So eventually those people faded away and they were left with just the really scraggly guys who hang around all the time and have got names like Whoop-de-Doo and Buzzsaw and the rest of it. And there was a people's library that consisted of a couple of battered copies of a Howard Zinn book. And then there was one guy who showed up with the have a cigarette, leave a cigarette, need a cigarette, take a cigarette. And he was this little Steve Buscemi guy with his leg jackhammering up and down and bumming smokes, and that was about it. Before it finally ended, the entire Occupy Minnesota thing had come down to process. They would meet every day and they had a whiteboard as big as this, and they would lay out everything that they were going to do that morning. 7 a.m. strategizing for destroying capitalism. 8 o'clock, the advantages of anarchy.
Wait, that was just an hour for capitalism?
Oh yeah, they were pretty good by that point. At
You're going to have to put in a little more time than that.
But my best was 9 o'clock a.m. intimacy issues. Because there was problems of boundaries in the cuddle puddle. Now, if there's any term that makes you just want to disinfect yourself and wash off with Purell, it's the idea of these people having a cuddle puddle.
Yeah, that's awful.
In one of these tents set off to the side.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
But
you guys think there's one across the street?
But there were boundaries. Well, let me school you then on the boundary issues thing, because apparently some people take it the wrong way when you come from behind them in the middle of the night and embrace them. That's what the Occupy movement came.
I call that my weekend.
That's Barack Obama's foreign policy.
What does that even mean?
What does leading from behind mean?
I don't know.
I mean, it's funny when you say that these guys don't want to go to North Dakota because it's rough and tumble and all that kind of stuff. I've been to North Dakota. They got indoor plumbing. They got heat. They don't have that at Occupy in the Zuccotti Park. They're out there recycling their own urine and eating mushrooms that grow out of their sleeping bags. That's a lot rougher than working in the oil business in North Dakota, But it's less respected, and that's the problem by their peers and all the rest, And
did you see the story the New York Times did on it? The Times did a horrible story on the boom town of North Dakota and the fact that there isn't enough places to stay and there's no art galleries and you can't see any transgressive sculpture, And they had this picture of the barracks where people stayed, and honest to God, it was like Bergen-Belsen. I mean, they shot it like it was the death camp that these people had been stowed, like Arbeit macht frei should be put over the North Dakota oil fields.
I was going to say,
but we know there's a difference, right, James?
Yes.
Is there a cuddle puddle?
my favorite was...
You really like this?
I really do, and I'm not. I mean, I don't need your permission. I'll go across the street if I want to.
Because normally he has to pay hundreds of dollars for a cuddle puddle. And they're just giving them away for free.
For free? Hey, listen, is the left-wing politics big deal? I'm in Hollywood. They don't pay me for that.
My favorite was The Nation magazine wanted to find the ideal sort of victim, martyr, hero of the Occupy Wall Street movement. And the person they found was a guy who quit his tenured, high-paying job as a New York City public school teacher to go get a master's in puppetry.
Puppetry, right, yes.
And then returned to find out that the market in puppetry was less than what obviously it should be, and so he couldn't...
Thank you, Goldman Sachs.
So, he was stuck with, I think it was $39,000 in debt. And this is, to me, is an indictment of capitalism. You should be a lot more in debt to get a master's in puppetry than just $39,000.
But you know what? I think it'd be a fun call from Citibank. Can we please speak to the loan holder? Yes, he's not holding. No, it's you. We know it's... This is Mr. Skipples. It's not Mr. Skipples. We know it's not Mr. Skipples.
Jonah, there's a happy ending to that story, though. He got a job. Teaching puppetry.
To people taking puppetry graduate school?
To people in Occupy.
Fantastically circular.
You know, he's leading the movement, trying to build a movement out of doing puppetry now. It's all very touching and wonderful. And when they're really trying to spice up stuff in the cuddle puddle, he'll bring over Fozzie Bear, and it's wonderful now.
Did you just make that up now, or do you know that's really going to happen? I don't like these jokes.
Well, the other thing with what the left loves besides puppetry and marionettes are giant mocking paper mache statues, right? Every time these guys parade through Barcelona or New York or whatever, they've got a huge, large paper mache statue as though people will be somehow swayed by large statuary. It doesn't happen. But if we had President Newt, I would love to see a large head of Newt on a stick that paraded through pumpkin-like as the streets as he's the latest figure.
He'd probably be carrying it. Like, my head isn't big enough. I want to make sure I can see my head.
It's a really interesting gesture you got there, Rob.
Yeah, just don't you think he'd be... I am the great powerful Newt. I could be a floating head. I think he'd appear, holographically in our, bedrooms every morning. Wake up, time for calisthenics. You first. What I was going to say was that the weird thing about these guys is, and I kind of, that's why I like that van there, which had all these different things to it, including, this embracing of states' rights, which the person driving the van has no idea. It has, lots of ripples and associations that they wouldn't want to be associated with. They don't know anything. I left a New Year's Eve party in Manhattan on New Year's Eve.
Rhino.
Yeah, it was great. It was me and a lot of other people who believe that, whatever. And I left it and
went straight to a Georgetown cocktail.
I did. I went from cocktail party. And I was, wasn't fancy dressed, but I had a jacket and tie. And I was smoking a cigar, and I'm walking up Broadway, it's downtown, right as the Occupy Wall Streeters were, I guess they were leaving Zuccotti Park or something. They were walking and marching up with a lot of them. And somehow I was in the middle of this Occupy Wall Street parade up to Central Park, I think. And so it's a bunch of people who look homeless, and me, and I'm smoking a cigar, and I'm suddenly thinking, I'm in big trouble. Because there's really no way I can explain this outfit. It's a parody. So as we're marching, I'm just trying to get up and around, and so these three people flank me of indeterminate gender. One of them has a drum, which I don't think is indicative of one gender or the other, but he had, I guess, a drum, and I'm walking with them for a little while, and just trying to get to the corner, take a right, and I say, oh, you guys are Occupy Wall Street, right? Yeah. I said, I'm with you. And they bought it.
Of course they did. The head of Men's Warehouse came out with signs for their stores that said, "We stand with the 99%.
This profile on courage brought to you by Ricochet.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny you brought up the the Gingrich.
Giant head?
No, the Gingrich talking down to you, saying do your calisthenics, you know, and you know, one of the things they get a lot of grief about is a lot of people wanted liberal fascism to be more funny, you know, as a book. And the problem is when you're talking...
I wanted to have more pictures.
Yeah, more cover puddles. But, you know, the problem with writing about fascism is there's not a lot of opportunities for, you know, pull my finger jokes. Hey, funny thing about Nazism. And, but, you know, one of the classic sort of images of sort of fascism, totalitarianism, authoritarianism, Orwellianism, right, is that big jumbotron head talking down to you saying you will do this, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I am one of 5 known conservatives in captivity who's actually read Hillary Clinton's It Takes a Village. And it is this amazing thing. I'm reading this thing and, you know, I had to like hide my pearl-handled revolver and all sharp and blends because it was just a real chore to get through. And towards the end, there's this thing where she says, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could, because we know so much about childcare and about how important it is for the first 6 months of life to educate mothers about how to feed children and all the rest and all that kind of stuff. If we could have big, giant TV screens in all public places, at the doctor's office, at the DMV, at the bus stop, at the train station, that would run on a continuous loop instructions about how to breastfeed. And she just writes this plainly, and I read all the reviews of the book, and I'm like, so wait a second, we got this, my whole point of my book is there's this tendency in liberalism to have this sort of fascistic quality where, you know, it's not brutal fascism, it's sort of nanny state kind of fascism. And here is the presumptive frontrunner of the Democratic Party arguing that what we need are giant television sets showing exposed breasts where they can tell you how to feed babies. And
I kind of like that idea.
We just run a continuous loop with the cuddle pump.
Well, see, you keep mentioning that, and I'm short-circuited for the rest of the next 2 minutes. Well, that is the problem, right? I mean, isn't that what that's our problem too? Is that it's a struggle to see who's going to control those big TV screens. So if it's our guy who's the star, then we like it, and if it's their guy who's the star, we don't like it.
Well, I think there's some truth to that, but I generally, this is one thing, I think Rick Santorum is an incredibly impressive guy. He's a nice guy, he's a hardworking guy, he's a smart guy, all the rest. But my problem with Rick Santorum is he represents compassionate conservatism, only this time he means it, right? And I don't like, I mean, some of you have heard me with this riff before, but I don't like compassionate conservatism. I don't want the government to feel my pain, I want the government to feel my boot in its ass. You know, maybe it's because, you know, my last name is Goldberg, I'm sort of an Old Testament guy. I like my conservatism with more smiting and wrath. And Santorum's stuff about compassionate conservatism, to his credit, there's more smiting and wrath to it, or at least it seems sort of implied, but it does concern me. And I think that, you know, one of the great problems we had with Bush was the whole concept of compassionate conservatism, at least rhetorically. Because it bought into this idea that the measure of your soul is directly correlable to your support for bloated, inefficient, Great Society programs, right?
Well, right. We forget, in 2000, we had a choice between a guy who said he would massively increase Medicare expenses and a guy who said he would massively increase them even a little bit more, and we voted for the guy who promised a little bit more.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if Ron Paul wasn't absolutely insane on foreign policy and if he was just a different kind of libertarian, I would be entirely for Ron Paul. He's you know, what you need, I mean, it's too bad we don't have Mark Stein here, because Mark Stein loves to go on this rant about the whole take a hatchet to the whole thing kind of thing, and I agree with all that. I don't want to hear about leaving children behind and all of that kind of stuff. Let's leave some kids behind. I mean, the slow fat ones are constantly complaining, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
But the slow fat ones get the conch, and they're the ones who, oh, that's a different book. So.
Yeah, that's different. You know, it's not that I want it's not that I want kids to suffer. I just don't think the federal government is particularly good at making sure that they won't. And
well, on the contrary, the federal government is pretty good at making sure that they do.
What was the sign we saw today? We were stopped at an intersection and there was a father who had dragged his small child out to protest. Because nothing convinces minds more than giant puppets than a small child who's been handed a sign, right? And the father's sign was something about how one of them was Republicans love the rich, to which we both said, well, yes.
Of course.
Yes. We want to join their ranks. We admire their efforts. We like what they do for the rest of the country. But what was the other one that the guy had? No future. That the
look, Ma, no future.
Yeah, the small child. You know, here's somebody that you want to instill with all the hope that you can and wonder that you can possibly want them to have. A world full of pink pastel, tubby, Teletubby, My Little Pony visions. And Dad's putting a poster in her hand saying, you have no future, child.
Well, the conversation must have been interesting because I think she was a little too young to read it. She says, here, hold the sign. What does it say? It says you have no future.
Repeat after me.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Who has no future? You. Yeah.
You can't sell it unless you believe it, sugar.
Right.
So come on, Tiffany, you have no future, say it.
So you've just confirmed, in other words, what that father said.
Totally, yes.
You want those children to be left behind.
It's
the point about putting a modifier in front of conservatism. As though the term itself is so black, so dark, so awful, that it has to be tempered with a nice little...
Well, that's right. Look, it's a fundamentally bigoted point, right? If you do this game with almost any other label, you see, it becomes obvious, right? Oh, yeah, no, I love that guy. He's a compassionate Jew. He's a different kind of Jew, you know? That Rick Sectora, he's a different kind of Catholic. He's a compassionate Catholic. You know, it's insulting.
He's a moderate homosexual.
Can you imagine a Democrat? Can you imagine a Democrat running as a realistic liberal? Right. Which is practically the equivalent.
No, but that's how they watch it. That is how they describe all of them.
Well,
they are all pragmatic. They are all realistic. Notice what's happening right now. Suddenly we're reading about how the team of Barack and Michelle Obama and how she's like Bill Clinton and she's reaching out and he's learning to schmooze more. That's going to be the TikTok between now and June, July, August is how he's learned and grown and become more of a politician. That is the story they're going to tell. And it doesn't have to come from any central authority. It's in their bones, everybody writing. Everyone writing is good. They've now decided, they've wavered a little bit, they want him back, they want him back powerfully, they want him back, and they're willing to fight for it. And that's the story we're all going to be reading in New York Times.
And I just like to point out that you're an incredible racist for bringing that up.
Not for bringing that up.
The LA Times did a piece today talking about an illustration that's been going around in the blogosphere. It's got Michelle Obama as Marie Antoinette. And it's got her hand draped over the globe, choosing her next vacation. And they grafted onto her left arm a really beefy, muscular set of pipes. And they regarded the whole thing as completely and utterly racist. I'm scratching my head and looking and I said, no, it's meant to call back to the Marie Antoinette thing. And as far as the arm goes, that's because we were told there for a little while that the most fascinating thing about her was her incredible arms. Remember that? When we were supposed to be, I mean, there were several things about her that were extraordinary. One of them was her taste in food. The other was her taste in clothing, which I thought was absolutely atrocious. Absolutely. It looks like somebody threw a bomb into Hot Topic at the mall. Whatever that blown out got thrown on her body. But then her arms, her wonderful, muscular, toned arm. So to merely portray her thus was regarded as racist. And as such, nearly every single one of the things that you're talking about here is going to be derided as such, because that's the only possible justification you can have. There's no rational justification for opposing the Obama administration. Hence, it's got to come from your own deep-seated racial animus.
Well, that's part of the problem. Look, one of my favorite New Yorker cartoons had Rhino, I know. One of my favorite New Yorker cartoons has two dogs sitting at a bar in New York drinking martinis in pinstripe suits. And one dog turns to the other dog and says, you know, it's not good enough that dogs succeed. Cats must also fail. And, which of course is absolutely true. But, you know, the thing that what we're going to see now is I think the media is pretty much, as these guys were saying, I think it's basically right. The media is not as wildly pro-Obama as they once were, right? But they are as anti-Republican as they've ever been. And so it's sort of a good offense, I mean, a good defense is a good offense kind of situation now. And we're going to have, this is one of the reasons why I think you know, again, I'm not a huge Romney supporter by any stretch of the imagination. You know, he's sort of the right-wing equivalent of 2% milk. But he's dairy, he's just not that dairy, you know? And
he makes your coffee gray.
yeah. And he kind of comes out of the carton slightly blue for some reason, but
there's a sad kid's picture on it, so it's already depressing in the morning.
there's a picture on the carton of a kid that I saw in Rob Long's trunk, but I don't know why. Anyway, the point is...
I don't know why you're looking at my trunk, but whatever.
What was I talking about? Oh, so, you know,
I got it. Two cannibals are eating a clown, and one of them says to the other, "Does this taste funny to you?"
And the other one says, "I'm having a ball." And the other one says, "Wow, you eat fast."
Oh, come on. Jonah, you got to write with a blue ink. That's too bad. You're too talented.
Too blue. I apologize. Yeah. So, anyway, what was I saying about Mitt? Oh, that he's Republican enough for the media to hate him, but he's not so Republican that it's going to be easy for them to demonize him. And
wait.
I'm not saying they won't demonize him. I just said it won't be easy. You know,
I think they go in cycles, and I think they believe they've kicked Barack Obama enough, and they're probably going to kick him a little bit until the middle of February. They will kick him until State of the Union, or maybe a little bit later, and they will stop kicking him. And they'll think, well, we did that. Remember, we were really tough on him a year ago when it didn't count, and now we're going to be really easy on him now.
Yeah, but they're not tough on him now. This drives me absolutely crazy.
Well, they think they are.
No, I know, but if you read like the Washington Post coverage of this, they had a fantastic piece about a month ago from the White House correspondent for the Washington Post, and the whole gist of it was the problem with Barack Obama, why he's failing, is because he's just too smart. Right? It was like Bill Clinton. His problems are he just cares too much. You know, there's never, and they actually believe this stuff, that this is at the heart of his problem. All of his problems are, and I remember when Bill Clinton was asked what his single biggest mistake of his presidency was. This is a true story, and he says without batting, he pretends, you know, he thinks, bites his lip, you know, that kind of thing. You know, he thinks about playing Baron in the Milk Maid with some interns, but then, you know, he spits out his canned response, which is, my biggest single mistake was underestimating the depths to which my political opponents would go. And I remember, you know, the journalist was interviewing him. Yeah, oh, that is an amazing insight.
I think, was it those Hitler's last words? In the end, you regret that you were too kind.
And so they don't go after Obama hard, they go after his failures, but they always make it seem as if his failures were based upon an inability to deal with how mean or obstructionist the Republicans are, right? You hear all these people saying how there's this huge controversy about Barack Obama making a recess appointment. That's not the controversy at all, right? If it was just a recess appointment, there would be no controversy. The point of the controversy is that he made a recess appointment when the Senate's not in recess, you know, which is a problem. But the media doesn't want to talk about that, and Obama very clearly did this on purpose. He did this because he could have done a recess appointment. There was a window of opportunity to do that. He didn't want to do that. He wanted the Republicans to go batty, so the media would talk about how the Republicans are batty, force the Republicans to talk about process stuff. Meanwhile, he's the guy who's fighting for the little guy and going out to Ohio. And the Republicans have not figured out how to deal with this quite yet, and it's a real problem. And that's why in this election, I want it to be a referendum on Obama. Because that's the way the Republicans win. If it's a referendum on Obama, people figured out that this guy is not what he was. You know, in 2008, he did this whole "People of Earth, stop your bickering. I'm here to help." You know, and but the guy campaigned in Berlin. I still, you know, how many delegates does the Berlin caucus send to the convention?
It's purple right now. It's purple.
And so. We want to make it about Obama because Obama has been a failed president.
This is what we do.
Now, you see
Does anybody else agree with me, or am I the only one? Who here is a genuine flinty pessimist? Who here thinks I'm full of it and should just get on the team? Who here just wishes that we would just shut up and run the
That's
debate?
how he remembers it last night. looking up, pausing, taking a sip, and saying, "We're going to lose." That's how he remembers it. What actually it was he just stood up and swayed unsteadily on his feet and said, "Then beat that son of a bitch," and he threw the glass right through the television. And the crowd erupted in
Woke up as a puddle of my own filth and thought, how did this happen?
That's her version of the Kalapalawadi. It would be great, yeah, it would be wonderful indeed if we would make it a referendum on Obama, but we seem incapable of crafting messages. We seem
Jonah,
incapable
James is standing.
I know, that's because I'm transitioning to the Q&A now. We seem incapable of crafting messages and telling people, we're going to give you that pipeline, we're going to give you your light bulbs back. Simple things that ought to be true. You can bring the presidency back on the issue of light bulbs.
That is very, very true. Anybody been to Japan? Anybody used one of those awesome Japanese toilets?
Newt Gingrich would run on technological.
You can't get them here, the good ones, because they use too much water. Is that even possible to do when you're talking about that? I mean, to me, it was like a revelation when I went to Japan for the first time. I thought, what is this strange thing? Am I gonna make popcorn here? What is that gonna do? You can't get them in California.
You're absolutely right. Now that we've got to the issue of Japanese toilets and their restriction of American freedoms, time to turn it over to Q&A. Any possible questions?
I have a question. Why does the debate start at 9?
We got 5 minutes. Gentlemen, there's you right there.
Because of California.
They're not voting.
Oh, it's a prepared statement.
No, this is the issue. I was reading, Rob, your article on the Constitution and the coup on Ron Paul.
Uh-oh.
No, but seriously.
You know, I just make the little jokes.
No, it's
I didn't know I was actually going to meet any real Ron Paul supporters here. Frankly, you people terrify me. So
I'll give you cover. Go on.
I'm not even 100%.
James, will you start my car?
It says, what you're right is Ron Paul isn't insane. His views on sound money and central banking, even his narrow interpretation of national defense interests are principled, conservative positions. So, when
you read it like, you should have...
I don't want to take up a lot of what I've been asking other conservative friends, I'm a conservative, what I'm asking is, okay, so we could say all these great things about Ron Paul, but then when we get to Iran, the whole thing breaks down, mainly. But what about what we're doing to ourselves as a constitutional republic? Is that not more an immediate concern?
There won't be one if there's an EMP blast over the country.
But there won't be one in a couple of years anyway.
Well, okay, I mean, I agree with the premise. I'll just accept that, right? My problem with Ron Paul isn't that specifically. I don't break it down like that. Just assume the world were a peaceful place and we were just talking about central banking. I don't think I would vote for him to implement his ideas, because I think he's not that guy. I mean, if you are going to dismantle the Fed, that's going to be a big thing to do, and I just don't think he's the guy to do it. I think it's a hard job, and it's an executive job. I just wouldn't... It's one thing to sit in your office and go, you know what, central bank's kind of a bad idea. I'm not sure I'm against that either, by the way. But I don't think that I would say, and you know who's going to really unwind our position here in the central bank? Ron Paul. I'd rather hire a really good Bain consultant to do that.
See, it's funny though. We now discovered the problem with handing out free copies of the National Review at these events is that people can quote what you wrote back to the panelists. But one of the things I loved about handing out these copies of the National Review is if you go to the men's room, there are all these subscription cards on the floor around the toilets. It has to be a first, right?
Yeah, I hope it's a first.
We had one right there, gentleman in the front row.
Back here.
Hey,
come on.
Jack, this is boss.
I'm sorry, Jack.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us. Grant Bosley with the Josiah Bartlett Center.
The guy from West Wing, right?
No, he's great grandfather.
But they retroactively named him after the guy from West Wing.
Yeah,
right?
but they also had him on a farm in Manchester, so.
Yeah, because for a while you were with the Arthur Fonzarelli Center, and then and then Josiah Bartlett got so much more popular. I'm sorry, go
Yeah, that's what they did, Jonah. They built a crude time machine.
Mitt Romney's been the front runner here in New Hampshire for like 2 years, which is unheard of for a front runner to stay the front runner in New Hampshire. And it seems largely because the other candidates for president seem remarkably bad at running for president. I was wondering your thoughts on the field and their inability to kind of knock Romney off.
It's a bad field. Look, I'm with Rob on that, and especially entertainment-wise, you know, since Irving King left, I'm not going to give up on that. But
No, that's good material. That was really good.
yeah, no, I think the problem is that everyone's been fighting for a very long time to be the not Romney, right? So all these guys have been killing each other to be the not Romney, and so no one's really gone after Romney really hard. Tim Pawlenty calling it Obamacare for like 72 hours and then running away scared to repeat it is not really going after Romney really hard.
So, I mean, it's Obamacare. No, just kidding, relax. No, I take it back. It was ridiculous.
And, you know, and it's sort of a shame, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of like this idea of this Gingrich-Santorum tag team, you know, from the top belt, here comes, you know, the Iron Sheik kind of approach to this. Because I haven't seen anyone go after Romney in a sustained way, and I'd like to see what Romney can do. If he's going to be the damn nominee, someone needs to, you know, beat him about the head and neck with a broken bottle a couple times in a debate. And if that doesn't happen tonight, well then the post-debate conversation is going to be really boring. Well, but then again, we're going to be drinking so much after this thing.
But the other point for me is that, you know, it is a probably smart strategy, or it is among the smart strategies to run what is essentially a national campaign as a primary campaign, and just hope that you got the gas in the tank to make it out of South Carolina and hit Florida, and you've got media, you got airtime that you can pay for, and you're going to be alive, and there's going to be a little bit of election left for you, and you'll be a national candidate. But it's another thing to have no animating fire, which is what we all want, right? I mean, the one thing that you can look at the crazy field of Republicans and the way they've been up and down, and say it's Eddie Romney, and he's trying on different suits. Another way to look at it is that people were attracted to candidates that are passionate about something, and that's what we want from our frontrunner. Now, it may be a mistake for him to give us that in the primary because he's going to run a general. That could be, but you can feel it now in the in every Republican primary vote I know, even the ones who like Romney are like, yeah.
Well, maybe tonight.
I wish it was Christmas morning.
Maybe tonight Romney will have a moment like Reagan where he gets angry and shows some spark and says, I paid for this microphone. And then Newt says, well, actually, no, you bought the company and then laid half of them off. But we'll see. Or Ron Paul puts his head into the turnbuckle. I think it's debate time now. Everybody should get a drink and some more, fortify themselves with additional.
Is that right? Well, what do we have? What do you want
to
do?
Neil Jack?
Oh, no, I was just going to make jokes about Rick Perry, but, no, I have to wait till afterwards, because he'll do something funny. Just so you know, my rule is I don't drink before public speaking unless it goes later than 9 o'clock, and then that rule gets retired.
Hey, Jonah, it's like 2 minutes to 9.
So I'll see you at the bar.
We'll be here throughout the evening. We'll be watching the debate starting in about 8 or 9 minutes.